Hey there, I'm Eternal, and I'm an Object Show fan that has barely watched any Object Shows. We have to fix that. Let's play Object Catchup. Welcome into Object Catchup, the series where we review Object Show episodes right after watching them, whether they are new or old, famous or unknown. It doesn't matter. We will get to it all. Or will we? Because yesterday, of course, I skipped out on a video. I know, right? That's pretty illegal. But yeah, sometimes when you make daily content, I'm not quite used to the grind. I'm not quite used to the grind, so you gotta sometimes slow it back down a little bit, try to not get burnt out, and then pick yourself back up and then start getting to it. So today there's a few things that we're gonna be looking at. The first thing that we are gonna be taking a look at for sure is gonna be the Object Show that is filler, which I watched a few days ago, but I didn't but had a few episodes released since then. I think two, was it two or one episode to have released? I don't exactly remember, but um it was two. Yeah. It was two episodes that released. So we're gonna be taking a look at both of them as we do. And then we're gonna be taking a look at some other shows, some newer shows that we haven't taken a look at. But first, you absolutely got to talk about the last episode of the Object Show that is filler, which I reviewed a few days ago. Created by Logie, who commented last time, so shout out to you. And yeah, shout out to Mike as well, who, of course, inspires this whole idea and the concept for this series. Uploaded a roundup episode today, so make sure to watch it. And with that, let's start off with the first video of today, which is going to be the Object Show that is filler 5, which is titled Gun. So let's see it. Hello, I have just finished watching the hit episode 5, or well, should I say the shooting episode 5 of the Object Show that is filler titled Gun. So, yeah, this episode starts off with Logie asleep, Logie the host, not Logie the real person. I mean, I feel like that it would not be a representation, because, that's not usually how that goes. But yeah, Louis sleeping and then gets woken up by Skull, the Skull Bunny fella, which I don't think gets mentioned by name. However, as I found out by the fact that they commented on my video the other time, that is the boyfriend. So don't just go kissing people that are asleep. It doesn't work. I mean, it would probably work, but it would get you beat up. So don't do that in those situations. But now, elimination is one of them goes straight to the finale. Ended up being She Picture.png with 8 votes. So that is pretty interesting. I wonder. That actually is a very interesting result, because usually in a lot of Object Shows there is a bias against fellas without assets, so that is interesting. But in this case, it's actually the opposite. We're having a poly reacted character without a proper asset. So CPG moves on to the final. Although it was pretty close, 8, 5, and 5 is actually quite a narrow elimination. I can't even lie. So then the last one is the last battle heading into the final. Winner heads into the finale. So no voting. For no elimination voting, I guess, is a freaking gun duel to the death, which is pretty crazy considering we have a dagger who does not know how to use a gun. Although I would argue that it is pretty okay. Hear me out on this one. It's not that hard to understand the gun. Like, I understand that the gimmick is, oh, it's a dagger. A dagger doesn't, wouldn't know how to use another weapon. Using a gun is not that hard to grasp the concept. Like, you point and shoot. Point and pull at the trigger. It's not that difficult. But aiming is a whole different story, right? But like, they could have shot the gun. But yeah, either way, they decide to charge, and then eventually the best lotion comes in and decides that they will, of course, demolish them. And in fact, they do. The best lotion wins the challenge. Pretty well, I'd say. What is the one that makes the most sense? Who would win the battle? Because of, as I said, Dagger not really knowing. Yeah, it was a pretty brutal dying. I don't think She Picture was a big fan of it. Then eventually we have the voting screen. So the voting is to who's gonna win, which is certainly interesting considering that if you think about it, it's a very similar voting to the previous one, which is who's going to the finale. And in that one, She Pictured PNG won. Now this is no, it doesn't necessarily mean that She Pictured PNG is gonna win again because it's kind of like so the thing about like three parties is okay, I'm not talking about politics, I promise. But like, it can be 8, 5, and 5, but when you remove a party, those five now need to spread their votes again. So they could theoretically go for all five to the best lotion. So then those five voters who originally voted for Dagger now need to pick a new one. If you imagine that roughly the same amount of people vote every time, right? So then it's possible that it could be like a 9, 10 or something for the best. Like, you never know. It just depends. Who are Dagger voters like? Are Dagger voters more fans of the best lotion, even though the best lotion literally brutally murdered a character? Or would Dagger fans be more in favor of She Pictured Up PNG? However, sometimes you don't want to make the predictable vote as well, right? Because I think She Pictured Up PNG is the predictable winner because that is the character that had the most votes previously, and we have that information. So I'll be curious. Me personally, I'd vote the best lotion because character with asset, character with more distinct. Although She Pictured Up PNG, it's a very nice little fella, as you can tell there from the ending of the episode, tries to build a connection, and even the best lotion can sometimes, can have a chat with somebody if they're just nice, and says, hey, what's good. So yeah, the finalists seem to be on potentially good terms. So let's just hope that the finale isn't them beating each other up to death. I mean, we're having a voting, so I don't know. I don't really know what we're gonna do in the final episode. I think about it. Like, it's just a vote where you want to. I get to just read out, ultra dramatic drum roll. But as far as the episode goes, I remember that last time I was complaining about the pacing. In this case, I didn't feel it as much, which could be a do of the day, but it felt a bit better to me. That was a voice crack. Don't mind that voice crack. That voice crack. Let's pretend it didn't happen. It didn't. I didn't notice it that much. Which I think implies that it is improved. Like I was re-looking at that initial scene and it seemed pretty solid. But yeah, I think we should just head into the big finals, which is the final episode. I know, right? Episode 6. So let's watch it and let's give our opinions on the finale. We're looking at a lot of finales these past few days. Let's go. I have just watched episode 6 of the Object Show that is filler the big fan of that. I'm sorry, I will talk about the episode in a spoiler alert, of course, it's the finale. Go watch it, alright? Do the whole thing, alright? But I have to say, I fucking called that perfectly. Oh my god. I am a genius. Oh my god. I will be taking that victory lap all the way to Sacramento. That's a random city I just named. Oh my god, there's no way I predicted to vote down to the number. That's crazy. Okay, that is crazy. And I said the reason as well. Oh my god. That is insane. That is insane. I didn't vote, but like that is an insane poll. Honestly, in my opinion, that is such a crazy prediction that it almost looks like I watched it beforehand, but I did it. That's actually crazy. Okay. All right. So now let's actually talk about the episode. So I think it's the longest episode by far. We end up going into the evil well, not the evil. We end up going into the black box container thing where the eliminated contestants have just been chilling the entire time. Which, I mean, yes, they're not free to do whatever, but like at the same time, in this show, we have not yet seen a semblance of a society. Like, we have been in a field and then a hill. So it's like, where would they go? Where are they gonna go live in a house? Let's be for real. Like, the entire landscape is grass. Like, there haven't been a lot of places around. So they bring them back to watch the eliminated contestant. We get to see Dagger and She Picture, reunite, best buddies. She Picture in general, is very sweet. And then we start reading out the votes. I enjoyed this section. I think it was rather fun to see genuine reasons. I think it was rather funny to see the jokes. I don't know what the comment that the best lotion saw that made them scared was, but I can only assume that it was something. So I don't. Whoever wrote that, you scared the character. But look, sometimes when you give, good on them. Good on them making an impact on the show, making a gap, making a comment so unbelievably unhinged that the best lotion got scared by it. GG to that person. Um, but yeah, then we end up having the 10-9, which ends up with the best lotion winning, which is, I mean, we already talked about that, but that is crazy. That is crazy. Super close vote. And the best lotion ends up winning it. I do like it, though, because that being a thing that's actually happened. Because while I was analyzing the system earlier, right, about how, sometimes you could have that situation occur, right, um, where the people end up voting because of predictability. It's nice to see that that actually is something that is into place, because a lot of the time you start wondering if the votes, how much people switch them around, or people just always voting for the fan favorite or whatever. But it's nice to see that means that the votes did have like genuine thought put into them. It's like, who would I vote? Why would I vote them? Right? And then it's like, okay, like there was analysis put in to the fact that She Picture was a fan favorite to vote the best lotion, and that means that the viewers have been paying attention, which I am a big fan of. When the viewers pay attention and they talk and all that jazz. So that is very cool. But then we end up having the best lotion, the lotion from the best lotion. I mean, I guess I'd presume it was something from within, ends up taking over, and then we end up seeing the new character V Lotion, which, I mean, you could you you could have said the worst lotion, I guess. That's a joke that they never made, and I'm just saying that was the freest joke on the platter. Somebody makes a joke, ha, the best potion, now you become the worst potion, and they die brutally. But like, but yeah, I'm a fan of that design as well. It's pretty red. The other one, is pretty pink. We get to see eyes. We get to see spiky teeth, which I like spiky teeth as a character design. I don't know, like when a character has them, I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, eventually they end up just destroying the soap in half, um, getting murdering She Picture with Dagger, and then everybody else gets teleported back to the elimination lounge, and then V Lotion teleports there as well, which I gotta say, from a little bit of a lore perspective, the lotion never went to the elimination area. So I don't know how she would know that is where they went, because he's never seen that area. So how would he know? Unless, I mean, of course, it depends on the specifics of how the teleportation works. Because if the teleportation is a drop-down menu and it's like, this is the place where the character is, right? Then it's like, okay, then it's easy. But like, if the teleporting, like the lotion to be like, where could they have gone, and then specifically gone to that spot, I feel that would have been pretty difficult, because the best lotion never got eliminated, and therefore wouldn't be able to know where the eliminated contestants were chilling out. Just saying. But either way, they teleport within there, and then the recovery center manages to get a mega kick in, which is nice. Shape shifting the bottle, yet again, big fan of that being a thing that can happen. It shows more. It shows that the character is actually a bottle. That's like the fact that they can shapeshift and stuff, which I like. Eventually, the characters get recovered. She Picture and Dagger have a reuniting. A reuniting. Um, Logie proceeds to give a text box as a prize, which is an interesting prize. I mean, you can use it as like a name tag or whatever, or just write anything you want, I guess. But it's pretty, or is it like you could use it? You could do interesting things with it. I especially like that you could put it as like a part for like the best lotion, because you could be more. You could write like a best on it or anything else. But yeah, eventually the prize goes and get given by Logie. We don't get to see that. Not really sure how that's gonna happen. But yeah, eventually Logie goes there again, and the recovery center has to do the outro and does the outro. Also a big fan of that, because I'm a fan of characters doing the host's job. I think that's always a fun gag. Then I get to voting for who's the best character. Who is my favorite character? As far as just genuine depth added onto a character, I definitely think that she picture.png is the one that had the most like depth attached to them throughout the last episodes. Connecting with Dagger, connecting with the character that connected with the characters, right? you know. I do gotta say, I would have personally included everybody in this vote, considering it's not a vote that is necessarily relevant to the season. So get the hosts in there, get the side character, get that wizard from episode 4. Maybe some people's favorite character was the recovery center. I don't know. The recovery center, they gotta be one of my favorite characters. That's just a cool concept for a character. Like, it's just pretty solid. And eventually, the um credits are there, which you probably, I've talked about this episode for so long. This episode is 4 minutes, and I managed to stretch this segment out for like 10 minutes. I yap so much. I am so sorry. You see, this is what I took a break for a day. Yeah, that is crazy. But yeah, I think that's all I really got to say about the other show that is filler. Apparently, this is a universe 2 of the show. Now, because Universe 1 happened, which there was a previous season, if I'm not mistaken, which was like there was previous four, no, there were 4 seasons for Universe 1, okay, which is interesting. But now we're heading into Universe 2, and then Universe 2 is sort of like a remake, like a reimagination or something. It's a remake reimagination of the Universe 1 or something. So instead of taking in the instead of having to continue from that history, we're redoing the history with the same characters, because I think that the Universe 1 Season 1 had the same cast, if I'm not mistaken, but now we have the same thing again. So I see what's going on. It makes sense. Personally, I'll be honest, when I originally watched the episode that is filled, I did not know about this. I did not know that there was a Universe 1. I did research, but somehow didn't find it. I might be blind, but now I do know about it. Will I watch Universe 1? Probably not, if it's not gonna have new episodes, right? Because if we're reimagining them, that means that the original one's probably currently not needed. But if there ever ends up being Universe 1 additional updates, then yeah, sure, we'll discuss those. We'll maybe take a look at them. Although that would be a lot of things. That's like 30 episodes. Okay, I'll see in that scenario. But either way, yet again, the pacing thing for the show, still think it was a little bit on the faster side. It didn't feel sometimes 100% authentic, but it definitely felt improved. Like, it didn't feel that fast compared to some of the other episodes. I'd personally slow it down a little bit more, because like the thing about slowing down the character interaction, like, you're not slowing down the making of the episode. Like, yes, okay, sure, you are slowing down, like, you're making the episode longer because you're of course giving more time between the characters interacting. However, that doesn't necessarily make it a longer production, because you're just keeping the same frame on screen for longer, right? And I think it helps just in general. People digest information and all that jazz. So I would personally slow it down a little bit even more. However, in general, it was fine. Honestly, it was okay. And that is I guess the final review I got to say about the other show that is filler. If you combine the previous 5 seasons that I didn't watch, this would be a 6th season. So I guess I am expecting there to be more object show that is filler in the future to talk about. But for now, we're all caught up with this series. Roughly. We're all caught up. The second universe. Universe 2. Okay? That is not something I've ever heard of before. But look, that means it's a new concept. Universe 2. Alright, so Yeah, that's all we got to say. I think we can move on to another show now. Bye. Okay, the next object show that we are going to be taking a look at today is titled Train of Thought. It is made by mwommp with a lot of M's in the name. It is very interesting looking. Such a it's got like a professional aesthetic to its thumbnail. It's got very interesting. It seems like it's deep, but at the same time, it's so short. Two of these episodes are like under a minute. That I have no idea what I'm looking at. The titles are in lowercase. There's no episode numbers. Like, it's very interesting. Had a episode released a few days ago at this point. We're going to start off with the first episode released a year ago titled Nightmares. It's 26 seconds long. Let's find out what is in these 26 seconds. I'm dying to see this. Let's go. Well, we could talk about these 26 seconds for quite a bit. Welcome to me having just watched Train of Thought Nightmare. So, whoa. All right. This is such an interesting little thing that happens. So, we get to see somebody checking through, I guess, writing on a notebook, diary, or something. And then on the wall, there's, I guess, a picture of them with somebody else looking like a sort of crystal, right? And then somebody's like crossed out, like blocked out literally with a block. You can see, I guess, their arm poking out, which does imply that there's a third person there. Because I'm right, I guess that there's no one there, but there's a little line over there on the right, which implies that they've got arms. Maybe they're quite small, so that's interesting. If we're going by the rule of object shows that if okay, I'm trying to figure out if this character, if this crystal fella is a girl, because that does look like an eyelash. The reason why I'm imagining that is because if the fella's a guy and she's a girl, then there could be a kid. You know, I mean, not saying that that sounds worse than it wouldn't. Not because, like, okay, does that make sense? Like, father and mother, yes. Okay, does that make yes? All right. I hope you get that. Um, so then that is all looking good. That painting seems to get like turned, like transformed into what is that? So no, they look at a window, which is a different spot. There's a different spot where there's a window. It's the middle of the night, and then it seems like the painting gets taken over, and it's sort of blurry. It seems to be the image of the oh god, what is it called? The clover, like clover. Hold on, clover cards, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, clover. Oh no, clubs. Club. Sorry, a club, which is it's blurred out. But we don't get to see it. I guess we see it at the end, and then eventually through the window pokes out the club fella, waves, and then we get the little um information on the show, which as of 1 year ago was hiring voice actors. Now this one audio jingle on 19 seconds when it fades out immediately sets the entire tone. I can't even lie. The entire tone gets set right at that moment, right? So that is interesting, because there's no other noise. It's just a rain noise, and then dun. So I can't lie. I'm intrigued. I've already made some little theories, but I have no idea what I'm looking at. Time for the next episode called Marigolds, released 9 months ago. Let's just watch it because there's not much more theorizing I can do on little club fella. Let's go. All right. Well, this is deep. So, that is what is it called? Marigolds. Marigolds? What is a marigold? Is the marigold a type of flower that they buy? Now that I think about it, yeah, it's like a plant. Yeah, it's like the orangey plant. Okay. Um. So yeah, they go into a flower shop. They looking all sad. They buy a pair of flowers and then they go to a cemetery and they place them down at the tombstone for a fella named Amy. And well, I must say, my earlier prediction is so far still looking like that could be what's happening. Um, this does certainly gives me vibes of father and mother and then kid who died. That definitely gives me the idea of what's happening here. I don't know, but that is the idea that we're mentioning. There's still no voices. We've just got a little piano composition that just makes everything so it makes everything so interesting. Still no voices. I'm interested because we now are gonna get into the episode that is long, that is detailed, 5 minutes long. So we're gonna be able to properly see it. There's probably voices in that episode, so that is interesting. As far as the animation style for this is very interesting. In the way that they move, like especially the elbows, they move in this sort of. I think the part about this is that the most interesting is that they have like a clearly defined elbow. Right, which is not something that a lot of object show animations tend to do. Give the characters a direct elbow. Right, a lot of the time when they move their arm, it's sort of like a noodle. Right, they have noodle arm, but in this case, they have like a more distinct like elbow. So like they move like the top part of their arm and not the bottom part of their arms. They're like twisting it around, right? So that's I think the part that makes this animation style more distinct. But I mean, it's pretty solid. Yet again, I haven't seen a character speak. There's the flower posters in the background, all that jazz. I mean, we gotta find out what we're looking at. Like generally, there's not much I can properly say. Um, but I do enjoy like with the content that I'm seeing right now. I'm enjoying like how it's been presented. It's being presented in this sort of like hint way, right? Where it's like, okay, this is sort of the post of what's happening. Now figure out the past, right? So I'm liking the idea. I really like how these episodes are titled just this one word and all that jazz. But yeah, we just gotta watch the latest episode from 3 days ago, Abandonment. It is 5 minutes long, so we might have some proper stuff to talk about. We're talking about 30-second snippets for this long. Let's go. All right, I have just watched Train of Thought Abandonment. Now, I mean, okay, look, the show is literally called Train of Thought, so I'm gonna just follow the train of thought that I'm gonna be having while discussing this. All right. So first of all, they're taking a look at a completely different set of characters here. We do not see any of the previous fellas from the past two episodes, so don't know what's going on there. We're getting a taste of the world, I guess, and different people, maybe. But either way, we're taking a look at this sci fella, which I mean, this is a show where the characters have names, but I don't know what their name is. But either way, so they go to a party together, um, and then eventually, I mean, yeah, they've been invited to a house or to a party, right? And eventually the sci fella gets left by their friend, which is called what, Roxanne? Yeah, Roxanne. Proceeds to leave, hang out with her friends in the least brightly lit room of all time for some reason. Um, to be fair, the Scythe is still talking around to people, so it's not like they're completely solitary. But I guess I don't know who exactly they're talking to, but they're not big fans of it. We're getting the whole silent movie thing. So we don't hear what they're saying directly at the party, so we're more so just okay. But eventually, yeah, they're hanging at the dinner table. It's like getting pretty sad at something. I'm not really sure what the reason is. Um, Eventually, every fellow who's drunk, because you can tell the fabled trick of a drunk equals has blush, um, is in, and then eventually Roxanne just leaves. Roxanne just leaves. It doesn't inform the fellow of it at all. Doesn't really say anything. Just leaves. Which that is a pretty bad move. If you went in together, you should probably leave together, or at least check up. It's like, yo, I'm gonna be going. It's 2 in the morning, as we found out. And then do you want to come join? So that is the fact that isn't even a question. That is pretty dumb. A pretty dumb move from Roxanne there. So that's not great. Eventually, after, I'm not sure how long after, but after the Scythe leaves, proceeds to call over a contact named Bitch, which turns out to be some like double axe fella. I'm wondering if they're related, of course, because right, they're similar things. You got axe, you got scythe, you got a type of thing. So they could be related, especially considering they have this sort of contact going within them, where they're clearly buddies, right? So there's a possibility. But yeah, eventually that person going to the airport. So then them fellas ends up getting an Uber with a fella named Nicholas, which I don't think matters. There's a few other characters that get mentioned around here with names. Like there's a review from someone named Veronica. There's who else is on the content? There's a fella called Isabella, which we don't get to hear about. But look, this is the type of show that it's the type of show where you usually think about the details. I'm usually thinking about the details. So you got to keep in mind all of these names. You never know when in 4 videos time we're about to see a character called Veronica, and it's going to be one of the most important characters of all time. So I'm going to keep an eye out on that. But yeah, either way, they eventually get drive home, and they arrive in their house, which is the worst looking house of all time. I would not want to live there. Holy moly. The walls are all black except for a bright white stairwell. My God, that is hideous. But either way, eventually they are sleeping. Roseanne arrives to the room to check up on them, or I mean, I guess we don't know what she entered there to do, because the psychologist ends up sending them out, being like, yeah, this isn't the first time you've done this. You keep talking to your friends, you can't be with me. And then Roseanne pulls over a pretty good point, in my opinion. We're always around, we live together, but I don't get to see my friends, so I'm going here to see my friends. So okay, I mean, I agree. I agree with Roxanne on that point. I mean, I'm not sure what exactly is happening, with them. Like, I don't know how often they hang out. Like, they live together, but do they hang out that often, or what's going on, right? However, initially I see the idea that Roseanne's saying 100%, right? Like, if you're with someone all the time and then you get this opportunity to be a fella that you're not always around, you're going to catch up with them rather than just be with with who you already were with all the time. That makes perfect sense to me. The only thing that I think flaws that logic completely, um, is that, again, she just left. Like, she just dipped out completely by herself, didn't check up on them at all, and just left, which is absolutely the one thing that taints this whole situation. Because otherwise, I go, okay, yeah, she's right. Otherwise, that would be my opinion. However, that she did, that does start to get me to think that, oh yeah, maybe she's not like that considerate, right? Because otherwise I'd still consider her pretty considerate, because she's trying to be, manage her time with everybody. But in this case, I mean, it's leaving without them. It's like, why would you do that? That's just the one thing. So eventually she goes to the room, she sees a little bouquet painting yet again on the freaking bright black, not bright black, on the on the pitch black walls. The sci fella tries to sleep, and then proceeds to finish the episode there. So there we go. We get this little short of what's going on. But if there's voices in the background, yeah, there's some people talking in the background. I'm very sorry about that. Um, but either way, yeah, this is pretty interesting. They're still looking for voice actors. Which, look, I mean, should I go do that? Should I, chat? Chat, do I go apply? Do you think I could voice the fact? I mean, the fact that there's I'm considering they had a completely different cast of characters in this episode, it always implies that there might be a completely different cast of characters for a different episode. I don't really know what this show's exactly about. I mean, I'm presuming, since it's the same show, that we're in the same universe. But look, I'll probably go check it. I'll probably join that Discord. Do that whole thingy. But either way, really interesting little snippet. Really interesting little idea. I really like the environmentalism used. Is basically the main thing. Like the sound effects of rain and stuff, making sure to indulge everything sort of slowly, right? The decisions, even just like when taking a look at an app, it's like you get to see it for a proper like 5 to 10 seconds, right? Before anything, like we're moving pretty slowly. It has a slow pace, this type of show, which I absolutely enjoy. And I would honestly recommend. Well, nobody is gonna be watching this specific part of this section, right? Because you would already need to have watched the show. However, if you are somehow listening to this and you haven't watched the show, if you haven't watched this, I would absolutely recommend that you watch it, or you recommend to some other people, because I thought that this was a very interesting little 5 minutes. I can't lie, I thought this was a very interesting little show with an interesting little idea. So I'm into this. I'm absolutely into this, and I will be making sure to check out more stuff, and join the Discord, because they're apparently hiring an infinity of voice actors. So you never know. Voice acting career soon. Hashtag eternal 2 on the rise. All right. Yeah, I think that's all I got to say about the show for now. Very interesting little video. No idea what the current situation of things are, right? Because we have the little cast from the beginning of the first episode, and then we have the cast from the first episode. No, sorry, cast from the first two episodes, then we have the cast from the third one, which doesn't, like, again, from the beginning doesn't seem related, right? Because we got the soul fella, we never got to find out what the club nightmare fella was, right? Somebody died called Amy. The fella, the trinket fella is upset about that, and then there's this, which is a whole completely different dynamic and situation. So yeah, I don't know, dude. I guess we'll have to see in the future. But for now, that is all for my train of thought discussion. We'll be back in another time. I mean, I'm hoping this gets more episodes. I'm interested. I'm very intrigued so far. Let's we'll keep it moving. All right, next segment should be pretty quick. We're taking a look at a show called The Show. It seems to be a little bit of a joke show, 1 minute long. Only has had one episode 3 days ago. Created by Tober, or maddztherat, fellow YouTuber, 500 subscribers. The episode's called Kill That Boy. Yeah, there's not much of an introduction to do it. Let's just jump in, take a look at it. We'll talk all about it. Let's go. Okay, I have just watched the show, episode 1. Now, I'm not gonna lie, somebody has to give the, counter of how many times the word "the" was used in this episode, because it's a pretty big amount of times. But, yeah, so the show is hosted by The Face, and today the challenge is to make the team names. So, as a host, this Face fella is okay. I mean, I don't mind the idea because it's kind of goofy, but I also don't know what the intonation of this voice is. Somewhat, it's a very interesting performance, because so guys, today your team name, it's pretty good. Like, it's sort of, I don't know. It sounds sort of very 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 interesting little voice. It kind of works, but there's a lot of there's a lot of breathing to it. So then have the two team names, which has Red Ball, 8 Ball, and then Bobby the Robot, I guess. So, the team name ends up being a set of robotic noises, which I can't really replicate with my mouth. I was gonna be like, wow, or something like that. So that ends up being their team name. The other team name has Macaroni Jr. and then Retro Guy, which is a Retro Super Mario Bros. So they end up being called Retro Macaron, except half of it gets eaten by like a face, so it ends up being Retro Mac. Which, however, doesn't end up being their team at all, because at the end of the episode they say that they're Retro Blast, which is not true. That is not what their team name was supposed to be. They're not Retro Blast, they're Retro Macaron. But eventually they lose the challenge by getting a 6 out of 10, while as the other name, wow, gets a 7 out of 10. I can't lie, I think Retro Macaron has a better ring to it than Retro Blast, and it's less generic. So I think that if they set a proper team member, maybe, just maybe, the Face would have given them a better score in this case. I'm going to have to downvote them. So the elimination is going to be either Macaron or Retro Mario getting eliminated. I would probably vote for Macaron, because they literally said the name wrong. Like they botched it. They made their own team name and then botched their own team name. Like, how do you even do that? So I would personally vote them, but I don't know when the voting. It might have already ended, but either way, you can go vote for who you want. If you want Retro Mario to be eliminated, that makes perfect sense as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, also, by the way, how are we having two teams with 5 members? At that point, there's not even teams. You got three and you got two, but then one person getting eliminated out of the team with two. So everyone's gonna have one person, and then you can't have a team with one person. So they're either gonna have to split the teams into two, which would make two teams of two. So then it's just two duos and not teams, or we're just splitting into the merge immediately, which makes teams 100% pointless. So I'm not exactly sure I'm understanding what if that's exactly a great idea. But whatever, it's a joke show. You can do whatever. All right, that's all I think I've got to discuss. Keep it up, the face, and I will review it in the next time you upload. All right, let's go. Okay, so the next episode that we're going to be taking a look at is an interesting little one. It's called the Battery Show. It is created by Leandro the Animator, which has 4 subs. So make sure to get that number up to 5, 6, all that jazz. So we're going to be taking a look at the video from 12 days ago called Jokes. All right, that's the first one, and then we're gonna be looking at the second episode, I guess, called Recharge. All right, we're taking a look at that new series because apparently it was an old series, but we're gonna need to discuss that later. But first, we're gonna be taking a look at these videos, and then we're gonna have a little bit of a chat later. But let's start off here with Jokes. All right, which is from 12 days ago, 1 minute long. Let's watch it. Let's talk about it. All right, that's an episode. So that's a little. Well, it's an episode. It's more of a skit. So this is a little silent skit. So that you're gonna be able to understand it because you just have to read it. The only music in the background is the BFDI music. So, the battery says, "Hey, you want to hear a funny joke?" Then this pink thing, which I have no idea what that is, looks like a flower, but not really. I don't. What is that? I could not tell you. Okay, apparently the description says cherry blossom. Okay, so cherry blossom. All right. So we then hear the joke, and then battery goes, and they quote, for like a long time, and eventually doesn't even make a joke properly. Cherry Blossom rightfully tells him to shut up, and then there we go. That is the skit. They fail completely at telling the joke, which yeah, I gotta say it was not the best showing from Battery here. This is the Battery Show, so we're trying to figure out who's a Battery. Is Battery's our titular character, right? So we're presumably focusing on maybe it's one of those shows where the main character's a little bit of a doofus, right? A little bit of a mischievous fella, who always gets into trouble. That's what I'm imagining here right now. But we're gonna be heading into the next video to watch it. It's long, it's actually shorter. It's called Recharge, 48 seconds long. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's watch it. Alright, I have just watched Recharge. This is another little skit. So, as you'll immediately notice, this is taking place in the storyboard itself. So we are seeing like real paper, like images of the real paper rather than the skit. So we get to see the battery sleep, and then eventually they get awoken. All right, they get awoken by some party music, which, by the way, fire beats. I don't know what song it is. YouTube didn't spot it. So I don't know what it is, but it's pretty fire. I can't lie. I was jamming to that as well. And then Battery wakes up, goes outside, and it turns out that I guess outside like a playground or something. Everybody's dancing. Macintosh is like hi. I don't think Battery's too happy about it. I guess they were just trying to get the beauty sleep, and everybody else started doing a party literally 1 meter outside their house. I can't even blame them. That makes sense. Now, there is one immediate critique that I gotta give is that, in my opinion, right, I don't think that this storyboard IRL paper style is the way to go. But for one simple reason, not necessarily because I think that it's bad or the drawings are bad or anything. I think that the camera quality is not very good. Like there's like graininess to these screens shots or like these pictures that just sort of makes it difficult to see directly, right? In a way where if you just make that sort of thing outside, like on like the last episode, you would be able to see it at least, right? So I'd personally prefer it However, I understand the idea that, oh, I can get more creative angle if I don't have to deal with these angles if I can't animate. Which, all right. So then we're talking about this. So apparently, over 11 years ago, Leandro the Animator created a show called The Battery Show that was deleted. And apparently, there's the episode one that's right there. I took a ultra quick spot at it, and it is animated more properly. It's a little bit goofy, but apparently, because it was animated in Flash, and then it got and then Flash, of course, is this one now. Flash was remade into Adobe Animate, which is sort of the spiritual successor to Flash, however it's paid, right? So the idea is that currently we don't have Mr. Leandro here doesn't have an animation program. So what is the solution to the issue? Now, I think as far as object show animators go, a lot of them use stuff like Flippiclip and ToonSquid, right? Because they are very accessible mobile options for mobiles and for tablets and phones, respectively, right? To animating, right? Because you can more proper, like they're super accessible. Right? I think ToonSquids cost some money as well. However, they're pretty damn accessible, right? Um, and then a lot of the more, I guess, professional quote unquote use stuff like Adobe Animate still, while like if you're doing 3D, you probably just use Blender, right? So that is the situation. What would I recommend? Look, all right, I don't call me a bad influence, okay? But in my opinion, join the dark side. Don't let a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has a massive history of mistreating their customers like Adobe tell you that you can't go download. Look, r/piracy is right there. I'm just saying, it's a big old subreddit. They know what they're doing. They got a mega thread. It's pretty cool. I just say, look, I, I'm not saying that you should go do that. I'm just saying, right, that like I don't think Adobe are gonna be suing you if you go and take Adobe Anime, right? And I think that, the potential, having seen that 2014 little clip, which looked pretty interesting, and then given it that the fact that it's been 11 years, maybe, the improvement, there could be some interesting stuff going on. Like I'm interested in seeing it, so I personally would suggest to go find an Adobe Animate because I think people are correct, and then go make it. I know I'm sorry for being direct here, but I would recommend that because I see what it was, and I'm like, oh damn, that was pretty interesting. I could see it moving, like I could see it. Apparently they're also wearing really voice actors, so we're having to do this whole silent film, which, I mean, you can do that usually, as well. It kind of depends. Yet again, it's very possible to get animated. No, not to get animated. Very possible to get voice actors, Discords and stuff. We just saw in the last show that we took a look at before this one. They got a Discord over there where Eternal the Second about to invade voice acting auditions. Eternal the Second VA career on the rise. Hey, I'm just saying, I apply. I would apply. But like, anyhow, so it is always possible to get them using Discord and stuff. But yeah, that's actually my recommendation. Is that show? While it looked a little goofy, it did look interesting from 2014, and then I do kind of like the gags and skits being applied here in these modern videos. So I just think combine the two, and we got something pretty good, right? But it just feels a little bit off when we're looking at something that's being taken on like a 240p type resolution camera. When I look at the 2014 one and it's properly animated, right? Like, it just feels like something's lacking when I compare the two, if that makes any sense, right? So I think that the possibility of looking at that and combining it with the modern ideas, we would get something fire, all right? But that's all I got to say. All I got to say. I think that we're gonna keep it moving. We're gonna go look at the next thing because for now, that's all I got to say. Next. Alright, so the next show that we are going to be taking a look at is gonna be well, I think a little bit of a jokier show, but it is by a big channel. So it is the Birthdaily Object Show, presumably created every birthday. Has had 2 episodes so far, one last year and one 4 days ago. So I am late. My apologies, but I'm curious to see what this is. It's created by the SoupEarth Society. We will look at it. First, we're going to start off here with episode 1, titled "A Race for the Cake." It has a feature on it, apparently, by Davy Earth. So we will have to see. We'll have to look at it. Let's watch it. Well, that was episode 1. However, before I talk about any of that, this is recorded 1 year ago. I have to say that you're not actually seeing it. You're not currently seeing it right there on the screen, you yourself, because according to the channel description, I am not allowed to look at to use the videos in any way, which means that I am theoretically not allowed to use it as B-roll for this, which is it's gonna be weird for sure. When when you're looking at home. However, yeah, yeah, there's no B-roll here because I'm not allowed to. So we're gonna be just discussing it silently. Now, this is, well, we got our contestant. Now this is obviously a little bit of a jokier show. We get to see the birthday cake. That, well, makes sense as a contestant for a Birthdaily Object Show. A breadstick, that's cool because they have a deep voice, and they have a deep voice because they have a deep voice. Facts, bars. It's the look. I'm a fan of humor that's like um obvious statements. I don't know why. I just find that funny. So I'm a fan of breadstick. All right. I'm a pretty big fan. And then we got the heart that has a national I care about you there. And then there's number 15. I don't know what they're doing, but they're number 15. So the challenge is to say happy birthday, which the birthday cake does say. And then they win. There's also Frosty the Snowman, which also gives a happy birthday. So that's pretty cool. I can't lie. But I mean, yeah, it's a mini cast, so hopefully in 4 years we should be good. As far as the eliminate, I don't know who gets eliminated. I don't think there's voting, so I have no idea how somebody would get eliminated or whatever. So guess we'll find out. Let's watch episode 2, which is of course the more recent one. It's also longer by 7 seconds. Isn't that epic? All right, let's go watch it. It's called Wishes for Fishes. All right, then. Alrighty, that is the episode 2. But that, come on, isn't this weird? Like, there's nothing on the screen right now. I might put the thumbnail on there if I can find it. But like, it's just a there's just no movement. Like, they're gonna discuss something that you aren't gonna be able to see, right? It's gonna be there. So so just in case, right? There's any chance that you're looking at, all right? Can I make a plea, all right? Because someday I don't know, I'm gonna be taking a look at Object Unicode. It's probably gonna get its own special and everything, right? And it would just be weird if that video has no footage to it. So I'm gonna ask right here, right now, can I, for future B-roll, use this? Okay, just in case, because sometimes the showrunners watch. I'm not sure. However, just in case, all right. It's like, could I use it for any future time? You know, if I look at Object Unicode, or can I use this B-roll? There's no audio. You can look at M7. It's how it works. I think it's pretty nice, right? It's not a replacement watching the show. It's not anything. It's not ceiling. I think it's pretty good. All right. Okay. So that of the please done. Happy birthday. I'm late by ages. Right, I'm late by 4 days because the day this released, I had to do the breakout special. When I'm mistaken. No, I had to do some special, which means that I didn't get time to properly look at it, which is, I guess, my bad, because I could have planned around it. However, yeah, happy late birthday. Now Heart eventually gets eliminated because mine doesn't work. So goodbye, Heart. You have been eliminated. We figured out that the number 15 changes to the number 16, so the age is a number that changes. I like that concept. I'm a fan of that concept for sure. The challenge is to get a candle, which the breadstick ends up lighting themselves on fire and treating it as a candle, which is it's a pretty smart way to do the challenge. Honestly, they end up not burning to death, so the candle gets blown. The birthday cake complains that they have candles all the time, but like I'm just saying they didn't do it fast enough. The birthday cake was literally, which was the fastest one in challenge one. These challenges are speed based, right? So the birthday cake was the fastest one in challenge one, and should know that speed is key. And here in challenge number two, wasn't able to do it. So yeah, we don't know who's getting eliminated. I mean, I would guess that the birthday cake gets eliminated because we have the collaboration that we're probably gonna keep into the next year, right? So then that would be the thing, and then have them and the number, because the number is just a cool concept, right? Because you can see the age itself, right? So that's cool. So that's what I would predict. However, look, we won't get to see it until 2026, right? I know there's quite frankly, I'm just gonna say it's probably unlikely that there's object catch-up by the time the Birthday Object Show 3 releases, but look, I'll try to make it open. Um, but we'll have to see. Um, Either way, yeah, happy birthday. Good job, Breadstick. The episode, like, it's a pretty fun 40 seconds. I like it. I like the intro with Heart. Close. Like I've enjoyed it. I think it's really cool. Now, I think that's all I've really got to discuss for this little series here, because yeah, it's a little jokey series. All right, that's all. Alrighty, and then the final little object show that we're going to be taking a look at today has two episodes, probably the latest I've ever been to one of these new releases. So I had to get to it today. It is called MIAM. It is created by Wizbang, YouTuber with 9 subscribers. Come on, 9. Let's get those numbers up. Get those numbers up. Well, we're going to be looking at the first episode, first released 4 months ago. It is called Cannon Fodder. 9-minute song. Let's watch it. Beep, beep, beep. Okay, I am pleasantly surprised. I have just watched MIAM1, which stands for Made in a Minute, and I'm not gonna lie, right? That was a very nice little watch. That I don't know. I just there was a certain point where like I clocked out of review mode and I was just watching it, right? Because a lot of the time when I'm looking at these shows for these videos, I'm like thinking about what I think, right? Like I'm forming an opinion. But in this case, I sort of like I spaced out. I was just looking at the show, and it was entertaining, and I was understanding it, and I was seeing it. And honestly, I think this is very underrated. I think that this is very underrated. Um, the only thing that this show has working against it, quote unquote, is its slideshow-esque aesthetic, right? That stops it from potentially being a bigger thing, right? But like even then, other than that, like it does the slideshow aesthetic very well. The characters are all they're voice acted quite well, quite differently. It's pretty high quality. There's no clear like flaws in it. I'm liking the concept of the episode. I'm liking the guys. I'm liking. I'm liking everything. Like So it's episode 1, which means we're doing the complicated little situation of having to introduce everyone here in the first 2 minutes. So we're doing the thing where we sort of just see everybody sort of interact and what's going on. So we can see TV and the Saurus are friends. Then we got the cigarette and the hourglass. Cigarette is sort of this sort of more angry, hot-headed character. All right, cool. Lamp and ice cream. They're sort of they're friends, right? Ice cream eventually gets absolutely destroyed by a basketball. Then there's a bandage. That's, I guess, sort of more doctor medic type thing. All right, so that's all cool. Um, Vendor is the diving helmet, which just tries to not do much. All right, see that. Then who's next? We got the AirPod, which really like the design for the AirPod. I think it's a pretty cool design. It's like a double AirPod. It's like if there was one AirPod for both here. I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, when the AirPod gets roasted, then we got the what's it called? The jar of flies, the firefly? No, fly jar. I'm gonna call it a fly jar. Okay, so it's the jar with the flies in it. And the note those were, I think, the last fellow. No, they're not the last fellows in the dude. They seem to be the sweeter characters, the one that just have more fun. Then there's the top hat that's sort of the ruler, but like tries to act king, but doesn't really do much. That I think was a very interesting character. In this episode, can't even lie. Like there was a lot of person I put on them, so I like it. And then there was Baggy that didn't really do much. As I remember. And then there's these three. So there's the magnet, who's a magnet, and then there's watching milk. At this rate, we were already sort of entering like overloaded characters. So I didn't get to grasp too much about them, but eventually we find out that there's a gigantic basketball flying from the sky because the basketball is trolling, right? The basketball that gets thrown by ice cream ends up. No, it gets thrown by cigarette, ends up murdering ice cream. So then by trying to get revenge, they get the diving helmet, which dies, and then also the airpod dies. So there's a triple death. But eventually, from a meteor in the sky that looked like a basketball, the host fella remote comes in. Now this remote fella looks pretty sure. They're just trying to host a competition. They don't seem insane. They're not murdering people. So I'm interested, in what's going on with this fella. They have recovery powers. The prize is a negative $12 bill, which is certainly an interesting price. I don't know what that even means, but considering I don't know why Top Hat would want to win that. Maybe that's why Top Hat isn't doing anything. Why would you want to win negative $12? Oh, but look, maybe it's like a Stack Overflow, right? Where like when you go from the maximum amount of money, it turns to negative again. So like maybe that is the maximum amount of money. Maybe negative money breaks the system. So I'm gonna go with that. Eventually, they form teams. They here, they're just sort of doing the duos, and that jazz. The duos and Hages. So, for example, Cigarette goes, I'm not going to go with Hourglass. It's this team. I'm going to go with the opposite team. So, the team forming ends up being relatively simple. The team name, the first team name is the Sweet Striders. Ice Cream says that she founded the team, which I feel like it's not true, actually. I'm pretty sure Lamp formed the team. Like, okay, Lamp started forming a team after inviting Ice Cream onto it. But Ice Cream wasn't the one who started the team, and mostly they aren't the ones who like invited everybody. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Ice Cream invited the team. So I disagree with that. I don't know if it's so, but either way, Sweet Striders is the name. Well, the other name, Top Hat decides to go make one and tells it to remote. It turns out that the team name is just a money sound. I'm gonna call it Team Kaching because that's what remote ends up doing. It does a ka-ching sound effects. I'm gonna call it Team Ka-ching. I like the design for it. And then eventually the first challenge is to get past the Wrecking Balls of Doom, then the swim through the pool of doom, and then the gorge of doom. Love this joke, dude. I love that. That was my favorite. That was my favorite joke. I love these little jokes that are like that. Like everything's of doom to make it look scarier. I love it. That was my absolute top one favorite joke of the episode. That because that's a joke. Honestly, that's a joke that I would make when just hanging out with people. Like, I love calling things of doom. You might even notice sometimes in reviewing these, I randomly call things evil, because just to like put emphasis on it. But then eventually we end up having the intro right at the challenge starts. Good timing for the intro. I think is a good place to put the intro. The intro itself is animated quite well, quite interesting. It's like if you imagine the possibility of like how the show would be if it was animated like the intro, right? Of course, not with this much with not with that amount of speed to it, but it would have um pretty interesting. Like again, the only thing that might hold this show back from getting into the big leagues, like I'm saying the big leagues, all right, like I'm saying like proper thousands of views, because I think that in terms of like just the concept of the show and the characters and the speed and everything, I think that we've got it. We've got some interesting characters, interesting character designs. you know, some connections, relations, evil character, nice characters, duos that you might want together, you know, people that dislike each other. It's just kind of like a Vesaurus, which I haven't seen before. Like I like what I'm seeing, but yeah, the only thing that holds back is that it's not animated, right? Like it's animated in the whole um system, which I can look past it. Absolutely, I watch it, no problem. I enjoyed watching this video. But of course, the made to the big leagues is usually got to be a more animation system. But either way, the challenge ends up being to first get past the wrecking balls of doom. I don't think anybody actually no Magnet fails. Um, but other than that, I think everybody does manage to get it through. Eventually, they manage to pull Magnet back by using the diving helmet. So eventually they end up into the pool of doom, which apparently had sharks in it, according to the initial. That seemed to be a forgotten little detail because as the fellas are swimming through, there don't seem to be any sharks or anything going on in that pool, to be honest, or at least nobody gets attacked by anybody. So I don't think there was any dangers in that pool. And it is correct; you can apparently walk around. Now, of course, the rules did say you have to swim through. That was the wording used, but if it's not enforced, fair enough. I guess you can walk around, right? And remote doesn't seem to bother. So then we get into, I guess, the more tough part of the challenge is the cannon. So everybody has to get shoot out of the cannon because there's a big gorge going through it. So then they go to the thing. So, the one criticism here, I gotta say that there's a little bit of an inconsistency here with this cannon, because some fellas get completely decimated by this cannon. Like the lamp gets decimated, right? But then, for example, the AirPod that is also a technological thing gets by relatively unscathed, right? The fly jar, which is literally, you know, it's like a glass jar, doesn't also gets shown completely fair and completely fitted. So does the TV as well, another technological thing. But then the hourglass gets shot across and then completely gets destroyed. Right, so I'm not really understanding these cannon shots. Like, is it good enough to break? Is it strong enough to break glass or not? You know, there's a little bit of a thing. The note eventually gets turned into a paper airplane and goes by, which it's pretty smart. I am a fan of that. Uh, the milk ends up. Oh yeah, see, the milk also ends up getting shot over and being perfectly fine, with despite again being a glass of milk. Man, the other team has the problem. The top hat just won't go. So Sarah's about to fall off the gorge, but they don't quite get to see that happen because the other team finishes before top hat can figure out a strategy to not get shot by a cannon. So eventually that team is up for elimination. And then we have the elimination screen with top hat by earbud, cigarette, firefly jar. Okay, that's what they're called. No, and what is the voting screen for no? Oh, it's like a side shot, so there's nothing there because it's a paper and it's 1 millimeter. Okay, I see. I would probably vote for. I'm okay. No, I'm not. This not who I would vote for, but I would pretty clearly expect Top Hat to get eliminated. Top Hat got a lot of screen time, so there is a chance that people like Top Hat. But it's the classic thing with objects, right? Mean character, and especially the character that makes the team lose, is most likely gonna get eliminated, right? So Top Hat, despite being pretty damn iconic, I like Top Hat. I can't even lie. I'm a big fan of Top Hat in this episode. Got a lot of screen time. I know at least a very clearly distinct character. Um, but no, I would probably me personally eliminate Watchy because I feel like Watchy had the least like thing going on, right? Like, they looked at stars or something, but they kind of didn't have much going on for them. So I would probably eliminate Watchy, me personally, because I like to base my votes off how much a character did, you know, like how interesting is a character, rather than like if they did something bad specifically. But most people, I think, vote based on performance, and Top Hat clearly was the worst performer in the challenge, and it's just generally a nuisance. Cigarette was also a bit mean, but I think in the battle, like Cigarette had a point, right? Cigarette's like, you gotta go, and then Top Hat was like, no. So I think Top Hat should go. That's all I've got to really say. We are heading into the second episode, which was made 4 months later. MIAM 2 Cooked to Perfection, released 12 days ago. I'm super late. Very sorry. Let's watch it and we'll talk about it. Let's go. All right, I have just watched Made in a Minute 2, Cooked to Perfection. And yeah, look, the thing about this is, yeah, the writing in this show and the humor in this show and just kind of the way things go. I like it. It just feels like something that honestly, it does feel like if I were to write something, I would probably write stuff like this. Right? Like it's kind of this is the vibe. I enjoy this. I just enjoy looking at it. I enjoy watching this. It's pretty fun. It's well paced. You know, it's a well paced episode. Um like even if like it's got its little slideshow, no, well, not slideshow, you know, like I mean, I guess it is like a slideshow-esque animation usually. However, like it doesn't matter. It's a good watch. Like I still know what's going on and everything. It never feels like they're compromising because of it, right? Because sometimes I think the issue with the slideshow animation is that you have to compromise on displaying what's happening because you only have like 2 frames to work with. But in this case, it's not wrong. When we need more frames are added, right? Like when characters are walking away, frames are added, but when they're just having a conversation, that's okay. You keep the 1 frame with the mouth open, then with the mouth closed, and then it's all that is needed. So I think that this is very smartly done. Genuinely, I am very impressed by this show. Like today in general, I've seen a lot of very impressive, very cool shows. This is also one of them. I really like looking at these episodes. I'm not gonna lie. So what happened? Elimination time. I did not even realize that there was prizes, but apparently Diving Helmet got the prize. The prize was a seed, which wasn't stated what it was, so it was pretty random, but yeah, apparently it turns out that it's a pizza seed. Then we introduced the co-host holography, which um again, I am continuing to reinforce remote is pretty nice. Like again, considering in object shows, usually I'm like the default expectation is that the host is cuckoo crazy, right? But in this case, the host is a pretty nice fella. Like they're not unfair that much, right? They're pretty fair with their assessments. They're pretty nice to the co-host holograph. Some they have a little disagreement about who says what, but like in general, it's a pretty nice environment. Remote is pretty chill. Remote does land from the sky and murder cigarette, but that's like on accident, right? So I'm pretty satisfied. So it turns out the loser gets sent to space, which, however, isn't exactly the greatest move. I don't know. Look, Remote gets to chill in space all the time, right? So maybe they're just not used to the feeling of not being in space. If a top hat gets very obviously eliminated, I feel like that is one of the clearest eliminations that it could possibly happen. There's just no way, right? A top hat wouldn't get eliminated. Mean character gets eliminated, especially when you're mean to that degree and you also throw the challenge. Like it's just over for you. So yeah, top hat gets eliminated, and then we move to challenge number 2. Milk gets a redesign. Basically, it's a gag, and it's like with a wig, and like I don't know. I think it's fun. Then Remote ends up saying that the challenge is to make a pizza because apparently hasn't eaten Earth food and wants to try some and wants to give it an opinion. Cool. All right. Apparently, because hasn't eaten a pizza. All right, that's a cool challenge. I like that challenge, and the two teams are in the process of making the challenge. So the main conflict of the episode arrives when Baggy, which is literally a bag. There's things inside the bag. You can store stuff in the bag, like that detail as well, proceeds to ask the source on the other team what the seed is, and the source that says it, helps out. Even despite being from the other team, says it that it's a pizza seed. So now they know what to do with it, which is plant it on the ground and it'll grow. Now, Bandage gets very upset at this because like you're helping the other team. What are y'all doing? You're losing, right, and all that jazz. So and eventually the source gets very mad as Bandage just straight up kicks them out. Just they go bye, leave. which I'll be honest, Bandage in episode 1, I guess Bandage wasn't many things in episode 1, but it didn't feel that rude. But Bandage actually took over the mantle of Top Hat in this episode when proper, I am the hashtag mean one. And, and it's like, okay then, I guess you are. But eventually they end up, kicking them out, which is honestly a pretty dumb idea, because it's like, okay, like you're helping the other team, so I'm gonna kick you out so that we have less people on our team to do stuff, right? Because like, okay, like I don't know how that's a good idea, and especially, and it gets pointed out immediately after. Oh yeah, we had the numbers advantage. You just immediately made us lose the entire advantage. So Bandage is thinking strategically, but also not thinking strategically at the same time. We're thinking half strategically. I don't really know what Bandage is doing. In the meantime, Ice Cream, which is the self-proclaimed leader of the team, ends up routing everybody away while they end up with Magnet and Hourglass cooking the pizza. Meanwhile, Milk and Lamp, what would they do? I don't remember where they went. Because they kind of didn't do anything. They just sat behind. Wait, what were they supposed to do? To slow the other team. Oh, okay. While the other fellows were supposed to gather ingredients. Okay, let's see. Then a note gets sent, which, by the way, I didn't realize this in episode 1 actually, but Note doesn't talk, which is Note is a mute character. It's only a little bit weird because Note does have a mouth sometimes, depending on the frame. Like you do see it sometimes, which is why I was confused. But Note doesn't have a mouth and speaks in notes. I love that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just nice today. But I don't mind being nice to that. I like these concepts. I like these characters. I like what's happening here. I like what I'm seeing. I'm seeing good things. So then the note ends up getting up and suggests an alliance with another note. Eventually, the Firefly Jar throws in the note away, and it lands in Baggy, which, well, Baggy notices and proceeds to grab out and thinks it's the note talking. So it's like, okay, we're gonna be talking. And eventually realizes and goes, hey, can I join the alliance? And eventually Note still agrees, despite the fact that, Note doesn't know how they got there. So now we have a little alliance coming in between those three. TV and Bandage head into the forest of danger. Or as, episode 1 would say, the forest of doom. And TV eventually routes Bandage because, of course, TV's upset. Like, Bandage is like, hey, you kicked out our teammate, you made him feel bad. It's all that, yeah. So they go into the forest of danger, just looking around random directions. So, yeah. Meanwhile, Baggy and the Alliance go out shopping for ingredients. Meanwhile, the rest of them will be taking care of the plant, aka looking at them. And eventually, we have the main one who just sits there and watches the pizza seed is the watch, which again, it's such a dumb little joke, but I love it. I love it. Of course, the watch is watching for. Of course, the watch is waiting on time. Of course, you are. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just enjoy the writing in this. Eventually, Milk and the Lamp hide behind the bush that is like way too close. And Lamp is upset because they didn't get to be with Ice Cream. So we found out it's pretty. Look, this show is pretty straight up. We don't need to. We don't need shipping charts. Lamp just straight up said, "I have a crush on Ice Cream." So then all right. So we know that. I guess we'll find out. They need to do a good performance, which they proceed to not do a good performance, like, at all. They actually help out their team like 7 times over because Milk proceeds to take out the seed and say, hey, if I steal the seed, it'll all be good. Nope. Incorrect, because the seed ended up meaning that the beanstalk was all grown under it. So that means that when you pull it, boom, everything's grown. So they actually make a big mistake. Level 1 million mistake. So that's quite bad. Magnet can't pick up the knife to chop the ingredients, which look, you're a magnet and the knife is made out of metal. You could have done some things with that, maybe going upside down, grab the, acrobat. I know it'd be difficult, but it would have been an idea. Um, Eventually, after running around in the forest for 1 million years, TV and Bandage find Vesaurus just sitting in a plank, sort of upset. Um, then TV says for Bandage to apologize, and Bandage half apologizes. And TV's like, the end, and then the end credits show, and then they leave while TV's doing fanfare. Yet again, love this joke. I don't know. I enjoy the humor in this a lot, and I will make sure to commend it every step of the way because I really did enjoy the humor in this. Eventually, they go to the mall to find ingredients. However, they end up just kind of shopping for a while. To be fair, they had time. I mean, if you think about it, like, okay, sure, they were there to find ingredients. However, they also were there, mainly to, they had time because the seat takes an hour, right? So they had theoretically 40 minutes to an hour to sort this out. I mean, it depends on if the timer of the challenge was 1 hour, which we don't know. We do eventually see the time remaining be said by remote, but I don't know if it was less or under an hour. We do know that there was time for the seat to grow, so I think it was over an hour. But either way, yeah. Say, then they're off shopping. What else happens in the episode? Yeah, eventually the sea gets pulled out and the massive thing comes out with a pizza right there. Like just pizza fully made. And there have a big mistake. Eventually, ingredients get found by Bandage, who gets back, has some ingredients in the back because, they get back. They found the source, but they forgot to look for ingredients. I don't know how you're going to find ingredients in a forest. I mean, you can like forage, I guess. Get some plants and shit, but they're not exactly like great pizza ingredients usually, foraging. Like you would find like some I don't remember, but you would find like some maybe fruits and veggies if you like it, but like in general you wouldn't be able to probably make a great pizza. But and you probably make a poisonous one on accident. But anyway, one of the ingredients that is on Bandage's bag is, I think there's cheese, there's pineapple as well, so yeah, be very wary. Eventually, they're making the pizza, they're cooking the pizza, they're seeing, so eventually they grab the pizza off the pizza bean, but they realize that it's freaking frozen because it was underground. It was planned, it didn't make a ready pizza, it made a frozen pizza. It produced a frozen pizza, but now I need to unfreeze the pizza, which they did not plan at all. This was not part of their plan in the slightest. And eventually the other team did in fact not end up getting anything from the shopping trip to put either on the pizza or just cook the pizza. They didn't do anything. They bought an ice cream though, so it was a good shopping trip. They eventually dunk the pizza on... No, they eventually dunked the ice cream on the pizza, which I kind of like that detail, it makes an ice pizza like a proper ice pizza. Like you're leaning into the bit. Oh yeah, this is frozen. Look at how frozen it is. There's an ice cream on top of it because it's so frozen. So I kind of like that strategy from the team when you're in that situation. Eventually, Ice Cream decides to try to go recover milk. And you see, it's another. Don't remember. Like Remote is just like petty. Somewhat is like, hey, I won't recover if you're mean, which like means that you're trying to be nice, in some way. Like it's I don't know. Remote is interesting. Eventually, Ice Cream gets back, and the pizza is completely burnt because Ice Cream wasn't checking on it. They were stalled out. The other fellas that were supposed to be there, Hourglass, I don't even know what happened to Hourglass, but they certainly weren't checking. Holograph, I like the usage of holograph as well to display the time and stuff. So I enjoy that. And eventually, they have the pizzas to taste. So we have a completely frozen pizza and a completely burnt pizza. They're literally the opposite. So the first pizza is the completely frozen pizza, which I think is given a 2 out of 10 because it is pretty bad. I wouldn't eat frozen pizza. I kind of like this. They did lean into the bit, and I give them some points for that. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 10 also. I can't even lie. I agree. I can't eat the pizza like Remote does, but I'd agree because they lean into the bit to make a frozen pizza, but a frozen pizza is still not very good. So I agree. I mean, the other pizza is a burnt pizza, which is pretty bad. However, apparently it's a 4 out of 10, except it has pineapple on it, which is terrible according to Remote and gets negative 1 million. Now, in this case, I gotta disagree because Not because I like pineapple on pizza. I just don't like pineapple on pizza. But the remote shouldn't be able. Like I feel like there was a writing mistake here. There was a writing inconsistency. We're doing this challenge because remote wants to try Earthling food and hasn't tried it, and wants to eat a pizza from Earth. I don't know if they have pizzas over in Pluto, which is where they're from, but they haven't tried a pizza on Earth. So then, how is this fella gonna come out here and have an opinion on pizza and go pineapple pizza sucks? Like maybe he doesn't like pineapple pizza, but you can't have formed that opinion if you've never eaten food before. If you've never eaten Earth food before, how would you have decided that pineapple pizza is bad unless they made pineapple pizza in Pluto? But in which case, why would you want to try Earth pizza if it's exactly the same as Pluto pizza? Then you wouldn't be wanting to try Earthling food. You just want to be trying normal food. That makes sense. I don't know. I just went on a major tangent there. So I think it's a writing inconsistency because like Remote has an opinion on pineapple pizza despite apparently having never eaten like or food before is the main critique. Oh, I guess -1,000,000 out of 10, which means that Bandage is, due to not minding pineapple on pizza, the fault for the team losing. Now, in terms of the voting here, the prize should be realistically going to the source. The source, it was the care. Usually, the prizes tend to go. They're harder to predict, but usually they tend to go more towards the characters that either like that deserve something for their effort, that got mistreated or that did a lot of effort. In this case, I guess the Saurus would get it, right? Because the Saurus got mistreated. It's like, oh, I feel bad, right? I'm gonna give them a prize. So that's what I predict. And then for the elimination, this is another obvious elimination. I mean, it's clearly Bandage, because like it's the same situation as Top Hat. Character that is completely just mean, a jerk all the time. Just a jerk all the time to everybody for no real reason, and then proceeds to throw and be the reason why they why they lose the challenge, right? Because the reason why they lose the challenge is because there's pineapple on the pizza, and who had the idea of putting the pineapple on pizza? It was Bandage. So, I mean, I would absolutely guess that Bandage will get eliminated. Rating is close for this already, so I feel like I'm not necessarily influencing the vote here, but my prediction is absolutely just that Bandage is going to get eliminated heading into, let's see. And just to freaking rub it in, by the way, why are we having a scene after that's just Bandage lashing out at the source again? How badly do you want a Bandage eliminated? What did Bandage do to you, writer? I'm sorry. This is not necessary. It's like, hey guys, do you want a reminder that Bandage is fucked up and bullies people? It's like we didn't need all that. It was not a necessity. But I guess TV and the Source have a bond now, but the Bandage is absolutely cooked. There's no way Bandage didn't get eliminated in this episode. There is just no way. I refuse to believe it. Like there weren't that many votes, but in general, like it's gotta be Bandage, dude. It's gotta be. Bandage gets nearly the most screen time in the episode, but it's still like you're getting the most screen time, but it's negative screen time, right? Because it's screen time of you being like a mean character, So it's like there's absolutely no way. But yeah, I mean, my general consensus of the show, I absolutely love it. 9 subscribers is actually criminal. Like how do you have 9 subscribers? Like, you gotta have at least 100. You gotta have more than me. That's actually crazy. Because I found that show genuinely entertaining. Like, I genuinely was entertained watching that. You know? Like, it was good. I don't know what happens. Like, come on. I don't know. But I'm genuinely very, 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 very impressed. And I give you all the praise. That's why I've been discussing these episodes for as long as I have. I mean, I think overall it's like 20 minutes of content, and I've talked about it for like 40 minutes. It's just okay. No, I haven't talked. No, never mind. And I think I roughly talked for 30 minutes about a 30-minute show. Okay, I think I've exaggerated there, but still, like I've talked about these episodes a lot because they're just really interesting. I don't know. I really did enjoy it. And I'm 100% honest with my feedback. If there's something wrong, I'll say it. But in this case, I just really liked it. So good job. Keep it moving, and I absolutely recommend go watch it. Alrighty then, and with that, we are wrapped up for today's object catch-up. I know, right? We have resumed to the uploads, and we have taken a look at shows and more shows. Now, what is going to be the plan for the next days? Well, first of all, catch up more with the new shows that we haven't done. And then, I'll have to see, I'll be honest, I'm completely unsure about what to do about the invasion and lockdown double whammy, because Object Invasion has 14 bloody episodes, which is way too many for a special when they were talking about a big Object show. And Lockdown has 7, which maybe is possible, but it's kind of hard. But I want to be able to do another episode that is like about catching up, because there's a lot of stuff to look at. So I'm sort of worried here. I can't even lie. It's bit concerning. About I might get to those videos late is basically what I'm saying. I might get to Invasion and Lockdown quite a bit late, because I'm gonna need to catch up with them first, and I'm probably gonna need to make a, like, especially Invasion. There's no way Invasion doesn't end up in 2 videos. I'll be honest. Like, I did the 2-hour Asto Simbib special, but even then it was like an hour per show, right? But with Invasion, I genuinely just expected it would take 3 hours to do to get to. So I'm proper just like, yeah, I don't really know. Um, but either way, that's all. Upload is late because it is quite late on the talk, because I had to do stuff in the morning. But we exist, and we keep it moving, and we're all caught up for today. Goodbye.